Well, hello, everyone. For the longest time, I haven't been able to hear that intro. And I finally got smart today and realized that I had the speakers from the computer changed to some random setting and no audio was coming out. So, anyway, mystery solved. That is not the point of today's episode, but today I'm just going to start. I went on a journey, right? And quit doing nicotine. And I thought it was going to suck. Thought it would all be physical and, like the mental thing of quitting and the habit of 20 years and things like that, right? Which indeed it did suck. But there was some kind of cool that came out of it too. I was really grumpy and I was also somehow like, I don't know, more reflective or more aware. Or maybe it was because it removed some layer of comfort, or I don't know. But somehow it gave me some clarity and I started to think a bit. So just remove that clutch and I was crutch and was able to see what was underneath there. And started looking at some questions and some big questions and started putting some thought into them. And anyway, that's what we're gonna talk about today, right? Is the questions and the thought and what does it all mean? That's it. What does it all mean? So, as always, the show is presented by Memphis Fence Company, Simpalo, and Valgard Strategies Group. Those are all three of my brands. So that's that. We have some partners that show up down here on the bottom of our screen. We have Fence News, Fence Industry Publication. We have My Salesman, which is a lead qualifying software that we use. When we did residential as a mandatory part of the process. We have EasyG Manufacturing is our next partner here, and we use their equipment too. And then Thornton Fence Consulting Group. So if you're looking for some consulting, then make sure you reach out, talk to Tony, talk to his team. They're great people, and I mean he's been around the fence industry for a long, long time and done just about every job there is. So definitely would suggest all of these people. That's why they're on there. We do business with them. We like them, and so we put their logo on our show. But enough of that. So, I'm always listening to stuff. The show, I am live right now. Phone number's on here 901-878-4987. If anybody does happen to want to call me ever, feel free to do so. Let me make sure that I am able to receive a phone call just in case. Bear with me just 1 second. Yep. Looks like we should be good to go there. All right. So I've been listening to just different audiobooks and podcasts and things like that. I always do. Here in the past few days, I've kind of been down a little bit of a rabbit hole about the sea monsters in the Bible. That's pretty interesting to me. So kind of been down that rabbit hole here recently. But as always, I think my first million, I've kind of gotten into that podcast. Founders, I listened to one the other day. I still listen to it some, but I really like the My First Million podcast. So they're doing good. I thank you all for being here. I thank you all for listening. I appreciate it. And that's why I sit here and do this. If you have any suggestions or comments or anything, feel free to reach out. Let me know. If you like it, maybe give it a like or a rating or a review or a share or something like that. That would be awesome. So with all of that, let's get down into the show here. So I already mentioned I quit nicotine. It was so I'm a part of Purple coaching mastermind group that's like an annual deal. And there were some people in there that decided to do a fast the week leading up to Easter. And I don't know, I felt like that was my thing, was the nicotine deal. And so I said, okay, well, as a part of this fast, I'm going to quit this. And I did it. And like I said, it sucked. It was not fun. And I was like super grumpy there for a couple weeks. But hey, made it through. And I wasn't grumpy all the time, but there definitely were times where I was pretty grumpy. And you know, had some growth days, as Alfredo would say. But anyway, we made it through. So as I was going through that thing, at some point, I really kind of came to this conclusion when I've been, man, it's been a fight for me because I'm trying to figure out some sort of way from where I am to where I want to go, right? Some sort of growth path to get me somewhere. And I've been trying all these different things and I've been beating my head against the wall and I haven't really made any progress. And it's frustrating. And so I was having some conversations like that during this time of frustration or in this time of withdrawals and going through the whole quitting nicotine deal. And I just at some point either during conversations, during thoughts, whatever, I just said, "You know what? I need to figure out what I want to do." Right? What do I actually and I'm going to explain what I mean by this. Is I want to figure out what I want my life to look like in 5 or 10 years, okay? 15 years, whatever that is, right? Everybody talks about goals, right? I'm not much of a goal fella myself, and I maybe even like border on anti-goal. Uh, don't tell anyone, but we'll talk about that here in a few minutes. And if I were to set goals, my goals would be related to Memphis Fence. My goals would be for, maximizing the impact that we have on people around us. And we would have some sort of revenue goal. And so I would have a goal of revenue and a goal of how much money we wanted to give away and a goal of, I don't know, some sort of something about, impact and sharing some positivity and helping other people and all those kind of things. So if I were to set goals, that's kind of where it would be, right? Is I would set goals that were all around this business. And what I figured out is even if we do set those goals, we don't really talk about what we want our life to actually look like. And I'm thinking kind of granular on this thing, right? I'm thinking like where do we actually want to live? What do we want to drive? What do we want to do on the weekends? Like it doesn't we don't I've never had this sort of thoughts before, right? And so what do you actually want life to be like for you in 5, 10, 15 years down the road? Right. So that was kind of where my mind went. And then I went, even thought about like, well, what do I want to do at work? Right. When I show up to the office and I sit down at my desk, what is going to be there waiting for me? What type of business do I want to be a part of? Right? Do I wanna be a part of what type of, is it something in the fence industry? If it is, what is it? Is it still installing fence? Right? Is it trying to fight the fight of bidding jobs and selling jobs? Which, by the way, seems like it's gotten a little harder. And I don't know if it's because I mentioned earlier, I've been trying to figure out this whole growth thing and trying to figure out where to go. And I don't know if it's just all a part of that or what it is, but it seems that it's gotten harder to sell jobs. And we got some bid results back the other day, and I I don't spend too much time looking backwards, right? But when I get bid results and I see the low bid, I always think, what in the world could I have ever possibly done to get to that number? So for this particular job, their price was something like 30% lower than the material costs that we had in the job, right? The installed price for the low bid was 30-40% lower than the material costs we had. And it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand. There was 8 or 10 bidders on the job. It was not that exciting of a job. I mean, it was a decent job, but it wasn't that exciting. It wasn't anything crazy. And there was 8 or 10 people that bid on it. And I mean, we just got dominated. So, case in point, seems to be harder than it used to be a lot of times. And we're just trying to figure out where we fit. That's it. But anyway, is that what I want to be a part of? Right. So when I say what businesses, what is it in the fence industry? What is it in the fence industry? What is it at this fence company? Like those are the thoughts that I'm having, right? Is do I still want to be fighting that fight? Or is there another path that I can take? That's a question that I have. So again, I'm not really talking anything next week. It's not a goal. Like I'm not setting a goal for this year. I'm not even setting a goal for any of this stuff. But again, when I show up to work 5 years from now, what does my day look like? What am I doing when I sit down at my desk? What am I not doing anymore? Right? What am I doing today that I will be super unhappy if I'm still doing 5 years from now? When I get to work in 5 years, what puzzles do I have to try to solve? Okay. What levels am I operating at? What hours am I working? Like all of the details. So you can see where I'm at. I'm getting granular down in there, right? It's not just a big picture of, oh, our revenue is this much money and we have this many crews and we have this many trucks. Like, no, 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 no. That's not deep enough. That is not on the level that I'm thinking. All right. So again, when I get to work in 5 years, who's around me? What kind of people do we have on our team and what is their attitude and what is their capability, right? What is their level of ownership and what kind of culture or environment are we do we have here? So all of these things are what I'm trying to think of and what I'm trying to decide. And I'm trying to say, okay, in 5 years, this is what I want. In 10 years, this is what I want. In 15 years, this is what I want. Right. And what do I really want to be doing? Obviously, you're going to look at this over and over again. Right. I think it's kind of crazy when you're in high school, you decide what you want to go to college for and you decide what career path you want to go down. I'm not trying to create one of those scenarios, right? I'm not trying to say this is going to be set in stone and I can't ever change it, but it at least gives me something to get me going. So, yeah, what's our company doing? Right? I already kind of touched on this a little bit, but what kind of jobs are we doing? What size of jobs are we doing? What type of clients? Right? Like, what markets are we working in? I mean, what is this fence company doing? What are the people here doing? What am I doing? And am I in the weeds? Right? Or am I innovating? Am I building? Like, what actually am I doing? So that's kind of the question that I came up with, right? And that was a very long question, wasn't it? But it is the question. And it's a big question. This if you're watching me right now, this cord is driving me crazy. I'm sorry. So I don't know that anyone that really asked these questions. I've never heard about it before. Don't think that I've ever asked these questions of myself before. If I have asked them, it wasn't anything that I took seriously. Um, And it was just somehow I got to this point. I don't know how it was, how I got there, but um, you know, like I said, if I ever did talk about goals before, it was because people wanted me to talk about goals, right? I was in some setting and people were like, "Oh, you need to what's your goal for this year?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Let me just freaking pull something out of my butt." Um, and honestly, it's not really a thing that I get too into. But, we might say something like, "Oh, we wanna grow X percent." right? Or we want X dollar of revenue, or we want to impact this many people, or we want to be able to give away this much time or money or whatever it is, right? Like whatever those goals are, normally what we would think of. In fact, I'll tell you, I told you I've set goals, right? Because I kind of felt like it was a thing that I had to. Well, I'll tell you about that after this short tea break. Okay. So I don't know, a couple of years ago, I said, all right, people, if I have to have a goal, I'm going to make a goal. It's going to be crazy, right? And I'm going to have a goal of generating $50 million in revenue per year. Okay. That's a goal. And then I was teaching a class, and a fella in the class accused me of having $100 million fence company. And I thought instantly in that moment, I said, well, if you think I got $100 million company, that's my new goal. Right. So right then I just doubled the goal because, hey, why not? And obviously that wasn't a goal for like 2026, right? That would be crazy. But I'm talking like what people call them their BHAG, right? Their big, hairy, audacious goal, like whatever that is, right? Lifetime kind of goal. So I said, okay, fine. There's my new goal. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to have this goal, right, there's going to be this big, lofty goal. Well, I may as well make it a big, lofty goal. If I'm going to shoot for the stars, let's just shoot for the stars. And I said, okay, here's my new goal. My new goal is to build something so big that I'm dragged in front of Congress for them to decide if it's even legal. There we go. You want to go? I mean, beat that, right? So I set goals. Whoop de doo. I have no idea what that means for me today. We have a book club here at Memphis Fence, and we were reading from Drift to Drive by Chris Robinson earlier this year. And a part of that was setting goals. I set a goal for 2026 revenue. Now, the question that I have is when I get to June and July and October and November and December, what does that matter to me? What can I do differently? All right. So anyway, that's that. But have you ever thought about your day 5 or 10 years down the road? I would really like to hear somebody else's opinion of this. I don't know if this is some crazy talk or if there's other people that have actually put real thought into that. Have you ever thought about it in detail? And if you did you think about it long enough to come up with a real vision? Right? Because I never did before. And honestly, as I sit here right now, I still don't have a good picture, a clear picture, right? It's been a few weeks. I still don't know. So I need to spend the time and I need to really know what I want because that's the thing that I need to work towards. And maybe if I know the thing that I want in 5 or 10 or 15 years, then maybe the goal for this year is a step in that direction. Right, and the goal for next year is a step in that direction. So maybe that's how it works. Maybe I look at, well, I wanna make it to I wanna get to this place, and I can break it down into years and then break it down into months and, whatever those steps are, right, to get from here to there. Maybe that's how goals work. Look at me just rambling on about nonsense. Um, I told you I struggle with goals, right? Because, I mean, people say you're supposed to do it, and everybody did it, so I did too, kind of thing. Uh, but I never really understood it. Okay. Because again, set the goal for 2026 revenue. All right, cool. What now? Right. How do I go get that goal? And what happens when I don't get there? I go, well, I didn't get there. I'm going to try again this year. Right. Because I mean, I can't be tempted to lower my margin to try to sell more, right? I can't be tempted to take a job that I will normally wouldn't want to take or that we're not a good fit for just to hit my sales goals. So now, does the goal take control of me? And does the goal force me to make poor choices that otherwise I would not have made just because I want to be able to accomplish this goal that I made up that really doesn't mean anything? Hmm. Hey, if y'all operate on goals and you love it, good for you, right? This is just my thoughts and my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. But my default mindset has always just been I'm going to do my best every single day. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to push. And I'm always going to try to do bigger, better, faster, stronger, whatever you want to put there. And I get where I get because I know I'm going to try my best and I'm going to get as far as I can get. Um, and I'm okay with that. Right? I'm okay with not setting goals because I do constantly push and I don't get complacent and I don't get lazy and I don't rest on the wins and I don't celebrate too long and I don't beat myself up too long when I lose, right? I maybe people need goals more than others, right? Maybe there's some people in the world that like really have to have goals in order to be motivated and to work towards something. Great. If that's you, 100% you should do it, right? But it just doesn't seem right for me. Anyway, I keep I'm just going to move on, right? And so I decided it's not about goals. It's not about forcing myself into setting some goal, risking me compromising the decisions that I normally would make to achieve those goals. It's not about any of that, okay? It's about asking the questions. So it's not what are my goals? It's where do I want to be? What do I want to do in 5 or 10 years? And once I can figure that out, then I know what I need to do to get from here to there, or at least have an idea of what I need to work on. Okay. So now I can start putting some intentional actions into place that are going to get me somewhere. When I was in college, I remember I went to this college, obviously, and I was in this chemistry class. And it was one of these big auditorium kind of chemistry classes that I don't know, had 300, 400 students in it, whatever, like chemistry one kind of thing. And I remember talking about the professors talking about all of these things, and I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. And I was like, wait a minute. So, how do you know that thing happened? And it was all just based on theory, right? And I said, "No, no, 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 no. You're telling me that you can't see what you're talking about actually happen. You just think because this is the input and this is the output, must be what happens in between?" And like that didn't make sense for me either, right? So, again, if I can see where I want to be in 5, 10, 15 years and I can understand what it takes for me to get there, now I can see the intentional actions that I have to take between here and there to get to that point. Now, here's where we really got to think, okay? Is if I'm going to take these actions and take these steps, what do I need to be better at? Okay. Are there some things I'm avoiding? Are there some hard conversations that would help me? Are there some responsibilities that I need to step into? Right? Because there's some hard things between here and there. And those are the things that we need to be honest with ourselves about and we need to start working on. It doesn't have to be a perfect 10-year plan, right? Again, it's not what I'm looking for, but we need a direction and we need to start taking steps to get to that point we want to go. Me personally, I don't think it's about focusing on the revenue or the profits or any of that stuff. Obviously, we need revenue and profit. Okay. I think it makes a whole lot more sense to focus on what we want to be doing and where we want to be. And then we build the roadmap backwards to where we are today and figure out how do we get from here to there. Right. And then we go back and we take that long, hard look at ourselves and we decide if we really want to go there. Right. We have to be honest with ourselves about where we actually want to go. And then we got to figure out where we need to grow and where we need to learn. And we got to be willing to hear hard truths about ourselves. Right. And we got to be willing to take an honest look at ourselves because we have to know where to improve. Right. It's the only way we're going to know. If we don't know where we fall short, we're not going to know where we need to grow. So, in fact, I sent some people a message the other day and I was like, hey, um, I don't know, been going through this weird stuff, right? It was all kind of related to this whole 5, 10, 15-year goal thing. And I said, I want to hear some hard truths about myself. What do you see that I don't see that is an opportunity for growth? So that was a fun question to just randomly drop on people. And if any of you out there have the answer to that question, feel free to send it on over. I was thinking, do I want to tell you not to put it in a comment on here publicly? I I don't know that it matters, right? But anyway, so now I have to ask myself, am I weak? Am I inconsistent? Am I making excuses? Am I avoiding discomfort? Am I blaming someone else for my lack of progress? Right. So those are the kind of things that I need to look at because probably a lot of times, maybe we don't lack information. We just lack honesty. Mm. And a lot of times we already know what we need to do. We just don't want to do it. And sometimes growth might be hidden, right? Sometimes it's not obvious, it's not right in front of us, and it takes some digging to figure out where it is and what we need to do. But other times it's just right there and we just avoid it. Time for some tea. All right. So, yeah, maybe we need some hard conversations, right? And maybe we need to hold some people accountable. These are all part of it too, because we can grow, but we also have to have the team around us that's going to grow. Well, I don't know. Maybe depends on what your goal is in 5 or 10 years. You know, if you want to be the best frog gigger ever, then you might not have to worry about having a team around you. So, hmm, interesting. But anyway, maybe we need some better systems, right? Because if we want, depending on what we want our day to day life to look like, maybe we need to start thinking about building systems and putting in procedures so that people can understand what they're supposed to be doing without you telling them every single piece of it. Maybe we need to stop tolerating certain behaviors from our entire organization, and maybe we have to shift the mindset of people in our company. Hmm. So I think, we should figure out those things, right? And don't delay, don't make excuses, just make intentional, effective changes. So somehow all of this came from me deciding that it was time to quit nicotine. And maybe it was because it was a part of a fast, right? Which was a very interesting experience, right? To combine those two different things, and there was a lot of stuff happening. So it was an interesting experience. If you ever have the opportunity, I would suggest it. Any of the things I just said, I would suggest it. Um, yeah. So I removed some comfort, and I saw something interesting in there, and it was hard. It was not fun, but I got through it. And now we got to focus on what we want to do, right? And we got to do the hard things like I said, and we better get going. Right? We better change our habits, we better get some discipline, we better change our standards, we better do whatever it is because if we don't, somebody else is going to do it. And so I think for me, my goal right now is let me figure out where I want to be in 5, 10, 15 years and what I want to do. Right. And then once I figure those things out, like I said, just work backwards and figure out what weaknesses or, what I need to change in myself to help me to get there. Because nobody's going to come fix it for me. And nobody's going to come take over and get me across the finish line or get me to my 5 or 10, 15-year place. Right. Nobody's going to come push me. Sure, there's going to be people here and there who will help along the way and people you can call and talk to and things like that. But um, I don't know. Maybe you have a mentor. I'm not really sure how that works. I hadn't figured it out yet. I've talked about mentors a lot. And in fact, some people make fun of me for the amount of time I've spent talking about mentors. But anyway, maybe you have a really great mentor that's going to keep you pushed. Okay. That would be awesome. But We have to do the work, and odds are nobody's coming to save us. But the flip side of that, which is really cool, is that nobody's coming to stop you either. Okay? There's no there's no limit other than what we choose to be our own limit, right? That's it. We tolerate whatever that limit is. And so why put it on ourself at all? Hmm. And I'm not talking just about revenue, right? Again, not talking revenue, not talking profit, just talking whatever it is, right? There's no limit other than what you put on yourself. Go do it. Just go do it. It's hard, but it's possible. Mm. So that's it. Like I said, I have to figure out what I want to do. I've got to spend time on it. It's not a thing that we can rush. Um, it's not a thing that we can just maybe somebody listening to this thing, you just had it pop into your mind and you already have a vivid imagination, a vivid picture of what you want your 5, 10, 15 years from now to look like. And if you do, that is freaking awesome. I'll give you this. There you go. Good job. For me, I don't have the answer. I don't know what it is. And so that's where I'm at. I need to sit, I need to think about it, and I really need to decide what I want to be, what I want to be when I grow up, where I want to be. And I think once I kind of have that picture, then I think it'll be time for me to work backwards to where I am. And I would encourage you to do the same thing. And maybe one day when we meet up, we can discuss where we're going to be in 5 or 10 or 15 years. Oh, look at that. Tony Thornton. Thanks for stopping by, sir. Good to see you. Well, you showed up right at the end of the show, so you're going to have to hit that rewind button if you want to catch it, because it's pretty much all I have. But I will see you all next time.